This is a difficult one for me to film. I'm hoping that these two steps are somewhere to turn after the story that I share over the next 2 weeks. Suicide, in particular veteran suicide, is something that's sort of seemed to follow me throughout my career and life. As an officer in the Army, I have had 3 soldiers attempt suicide and 2 have been successful. And I've had many friends, both inside the military and out, who have shared with me their struggle, current or not, with suicidal ideations and suicidal thoughts. I've also had my own struggle with suicidal ideations, and over the next 2 weeks, I am going to be sharing the story or a conversation that I had with one of my senior enlisted advisors about one of our soldiers that committed suicide. Before that, I want to provide some context for those videos. I wanted to be open myself about what I do when I have suicidal ideations. The last suicidal ideation I had was on Easter Sunday of this year. It just resulted from me waking up, looking at my phone, seeing a message, and then boom, a suicidal thought pops into my head. So there are a lot of emotions, obviously, that I feel and thoughts that I have after having a thought like that pop into my head. For me, first of all, I feel embarrassed or kind of ashamed. The reason I feel that way is because I know that my life is so good, and I feel like I don't deserve to be having thoughts like that. The other emotion that I would have is that I just feel sad that that's where my brain went for that particular problem. So there's 2 things that I do every time I have one. The first one is that I turn to something that is hopeful. In talking to friends and in my own sort of reflection on some of this stuff, every time that I have a suicide ideation, and I've been told by a lot of friends, the reason is because there's something in my life that seems or is whatever, it feels hopeless. So what I do in those situations is I turn from that hopeless situation to someone that is hopeful, that provides hope. My go-to to turn to something hopeful is that I turn to my faith, that I turn to Jesus or the story of Jesus. It being Easter Sunday, the last time I had a suicide ideation, I guess it was a good day for me to have a suicide ideation. I was already planning on going to church, and when I went to church, I heard a very hopeful message about Jesus. Now, I'm not making this video to tell you what you should find hopeful. That certainly is what I find hopeful, and I feel like the message of Jesus and the story of Jesus is something that a lot of people find hope in. In thinking about this video, I didn't even really know how to define something that is hopeful. But what I do think, something that is hopeful, one quality that it will have is that you're going to have to spend time investing in that, developing that, whatever that hopeful thing is. So obviously for me with my faith, it's something that I regularly invest in, whether it be going to church or just investing in Christian community. But it's something that's going to take time for you to develop, and if you have thoughts like this, I'd encourage you to try to develop something hopeful like that. The second thing that I do is that I always talk to someone about the suicidal ideation that I have. 2A to this for me would be talk to a professional, which is something that I've definitely done, whether it be through therapy but for sure, always talk to someone about the suicidal ideations or suicidal thoughts that you're having. For me, what's helpful about that is just whatever I'm finding to be not hopeful. I've relationships where they can sort of share that burden, or at least listen, empathize, hear you out, essentially. I think suicidal thoughts and ideations are something that a lot of people have. For me, it's never something that I feel like I need to act on. I certainly have friends, and obviously I've had soldiers that have felt like they needed to. But I still think it's important, obviously, to recognize that I had it and to sort of get to the bottom of why that's where my brain went. All right, love you guys, and see you next week.
People wanna know